And welcome back to Red Card. I'm your host, Anthony Toter, and thanks again to Leonardo Molinelli joining us live from Italy, talking to us about a Serie A competition. But right now, joining us live from the west coast of Canada and Vancouver and the Whitecaps, Andy O'Brien. Andy, welcome again to Red Card, my friend.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. Andy, let's talk about it. I know where I'll be Friday night. I'll be glued to the set getting ready for a major matchup. Seattle Sounders and the Vancouver Whitecaps getting it on. This Cascadian Derby is always outstanding. Let's talk about it. And obviously, Dempsey and Martins are the two guys you're going to have to keep in check.
Yeah, well, I don't take it for granted I'll be playing, but we're preparing accordingly now. We know how important the game is, like you say. Their attack is potent. You know, you mentioned the two names there, but throughout the team, they're a good side, and which is why they're at the top of the league. But you know, at the start of the season, we wanted to give ourselves as good a chance as possible coming into the remaining games of a chance of being in the playoffs, and that's what we've done. So, there's a lot of teams that would like to be in our position, and our destiny, to a certain extent, is in our own hands. So. Friday night's going to be a big game for us. Andy,
a lot of speed on that Sounder squad, but you've got speed of your own on your squad. You've got Darren Maddox, you've got Pedro Morales and Fernandez, Hurtado. There's a lot of speed there. It could be a speedy game, this matchup.
Yeah, I think, given the importance of the game as well, certainly away from home you try and stay as compact as possible, but given the circumstances, we're going to have to open up and play at a certain extent during the game. So it bodes well for an entertaining game if you're in neutral. And from our perspective, it's important that we get some points out of the game.
Andy, what's worked well in the last month? I would say the last month of Whitecaps games have been real good. They've been simple. They've been offensive-minded. You guys have kept the mistakes to a minimum, and you've come away with results. I've noticed that there's a synergy with all the players. There's a passion. There's a desire to succeed for one another. Is this what taking place that you're seeing as a veteran that's been around a lot of teams?
Yeah, very much so. We've talked well in terms of what we want to do off the pitch, but I think most importantly, certainly in the last sort of month or so on the pitch, we've produced, and I think we're playing with no fear. I think guys are making decisions that more correct than incorrect, and regardless of whether they're correct or not, there's a feeling that we've made the decision in terms of the way that we played or the decision that we've made on the pitch, and more often than not, we've reaped the rewards for it. And I think that the fact that we've been brave.
Oh, we just lost you. You still there, Andy? You still there, Andy?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. You just cut out a bit. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, we're playing with no fear, and we've been assertive with the decisions that we've made, and people are coming up with goals which we've been criticised a little bit for in games prior to the last 3 or 4. So hopefully we can continue that form.
Let me ask you this, Andy. Carl Robinson, who I know is a class act on the pitch when he played as a coach now and away from the pitch, he's a great family man. How important is it that here's a coach that's coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps that has been not too far removed from playing himself, so he understands the aches and pains of a players, the ups and downs, the whole 9 yards of it, as they say. Is this good for the young player, but also important for the veteran that a guy like this knows what the players are going through?
Yeah, very much so. I think having experienced in the last couple of years the North American system and culture of soccer, I think that Carl blended his European experiences and his time in North America very well. I think going into the job he was aware of the circumstances in terms of that we had a young squad, and from their point of view, it's good that they've got a manager who's seen them for a couple of years, because obviously he was the assistant coach. So. I think that he's done very well, and we want to repay his faith and the hard work that he's put in this year with a place in the playoffs.
Andy, let me ask you this. Here in Canada, we've struggled for a number of years to get back to the World Cup, unlike the US of A, where they get there and they get there without any problems. Here, I look at the Whitecaps roster and I smile. I smile because I look at Carducci, a young goalkeeper on the rise. Russell Tebert right now playing outstanding. You look at Bryce Alderson that you have in your system, and I say to myself, the Whitecaps are doing it right. They're developing from the grassroots of their academy. How key and important is it to have a well-structured academy to bring up these youngsters and bring them up to the first team like they're coming up now?
Yeah, I think it's vitally important. I think the model in terms of that we have at the Whitecaps, I believe it's throughout Canada is different to the US, and it's more suited to being in Europe. You know, we've got guys that are 16 and younger that are coming through the academy and the youth system, whereas you know a lot of the boys that are getting educated and getting their degrees and things, you know, don't come into the professional game until they're 21, 22, and there's quite a lot of pressure on them to make strides quickly, because you know they're coming into the important years of their career. Whereas back in Europe, you know, you can be in the professional environment by the age of 16, which is what's happened to a few of the boys here. You know, the names that you've mentioned, the Sanabe Kubi, you know, there's Marco Bustos as well, and Kians. So there's a lot of players that are benefiting from being in an adult environment, professional environment, that at a younger age than some of you know the fellow US guys.
How important is it, Andy, yourself, a veteran, a leader of this squad, that you talk to some of these youngsters and you make them understand the pitfalls away from the pitch in the game that are out there for the young player, and make them understand, hey, away from all the glitz and glamour and the lights on game night, here are some of the pitfalls, stay away, and here's my number in case you need it. Is that something that you've done with some of these boys?
Yeah, I think you've got a duty as an older player to try and explain these things. But I think you know what I certainly find with the game over in Europe and more so now here is that you know there's a lot of kids that want to be professional soccer players, and there's people that are willing to sacrifice and do what's needed to be done in terms of you know, getting a career in terms of conducting themselves on the pitch and off the pitch. And I think ultimately that the younger boys either endear themselves to you or to the club by virtue of the fact what they can do on the pitch, because of the work ethic and the application on it. And you know, to show signs there, I think, like I say, they endear themselves to you. If you feel that they could maybe, you know, do little things better, whether it be timekeeping, whether it be, you know, what they eat off the pitch, who they socialise with, what time they go to bed, and things like that. Because they're all important things if they want to have a career, you know, in the game. And you know, we've certainly got a lot of young boys that I feel, you know, could have a 15, 18, 20-year career in the game. But in terms of how far they go, you know, a lot of things can dictate how far they go, but for me, a lot of them have got the right ingredients, which is hard work and work ethic, to enable them to stay in the game for a long time.
Andy, let me ask you this. We really appreciate your time. A couple more questions and we'll let you go. I'm a parent of two boys, and in Italy, you know, you don't start playing, you know, games until you're older. It's really about development. It's really about understanding the game. It's really about fitness. And here in North America, specifically in Canada, I think it's all wrong. I remember putting my kids in soccer games as early as under 5 and under 6. What is, in your mind, the biggest gap, the biggest problem still here in Canada that you've seen with the youth and the coaches that could be changed and could be done in a much better way that in Europe and in South America they've done it for many, many years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert, and you know, I wouldn't criticise the way the Canadian authorities choose to do, you know, the coaching or bringing the kids through the system. But you know, from the being specific, I think that, like you mentioned earlier in the interview, that the players that we've got coming through our system, whether it be by virtue of the fact that we have the academy or the scouting network, you know, there are some very good players there, and I think certainly between 16, 17, 18, I think it's important that they're in a professional environment with demands put on them. And, you know, ultimately the game, whether we like it or not, is about results. but I certainly agree below the ages of 16, there's an emphasis on enjoying it, and seeing who's got the desire and the passion for the game. Because, like you say, it's not just on the field nowadays that clubs look into. It's how you conduct yourself off the field, and they've got everything in the infrastructure in Canada, or certainly at Vancouver, that is necessary for those kids to prosper. But ultimately, the game is about results, and it's a good debate in terms of what age you start putting those demands on kids to understand that's.
And as we let you go, I need you to talk to the kids out there, the young boys, even the young girls out there. And a lot of times they're in an environment that's not conducive for them to learn and enjoy the game. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, Andy, they're on that bench. They're not getting the confidence from their coach to play or to start. And in big game situations or in tournaments, the coach doesn't rely on them, but they work hard. They have that dream to be where Andy O'Brien is. How important is it that they continue on to believe in that dream and work at it? And also, talk to the coaches out there to make them understand that mentally it scars some of these kids for a while, and their confidence goes away, and they need to really stop and think about what they're doing and saying.
Yeah, I think it's vitally important that you learn to communicate. I mean, when I was younger, and even to a certain extent now, I had a bit of a when I say temperament issue, but I used to get upset or I used to get annoyed if I wasn't selected. And I've learned over the years that it's important to learn to be able to communicate rather than whether it be getting upset or, for a better word, throwing your toys out the pram. I think it's important that you're able to communicate and you're able to go and speak to your manager. I think in the past you've been worried in case it's frowned upon or it's not liked, but if it means that much to you and it's causing you the upset or unrest, I think it's important that you learn to communicate. And I think now more than ever, I think a manager is it's not just about managing the 11 players or the 18 that are in the squad on a Saturday. It's looking after 30 players, even more, beyond that. So, it's not an easy job being a manager, but, certainly a player can help the manager by being open and honest and expressing his feelings.
Andy, you're a class act. You're a classy player. We thank you so much for giving of your time tonight. Good luck against Seattle Sounders at CenturyLink Field there. And again, we wish you nothing but success, hopefully into the playoffs and deep into the final with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Andy, thanks again, and God bless, and good luck against Seattle once again.
Okay, thanks very much for your kind words.
That is Andy O'Brien of the Vancouver Whitecaps. What a class act. What a wonderful gentleman he is on the pitch and away. But he's a fierce competitor. This guy will do whatever it takes for his team to put them over the top. But I love talking to Andy. He's down to earth. He's a classy guy, and he cares about the kids. That's what it's all about. And this is the type of guy I'd love to have in the community there in Vancouver when he decides to hang them up, to help the youth, to direct them, to guide them. These are the type of people we need here in Canada. We'll take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to check in on the score. Houston and Toronto FC, a big matchup down at BMO Field. Back in a minute here on Red Card.
Every day of my life, I wonder how tomorrow always